Hey, my name is Kayleena COF, and my speech claim is on DUI offenders and their relatively limited amount of punishments that they receive. So I personally believe that they should automatically get their licenses revoked for at least 1 year minimum following their arrest. The points I'm going to touch on are DUI accidents being the most deadly amongst vehicles, the trials, the stricter punishments, and alcoholism. So first off, I'd like to inform those of you who don't know that DWI and DUI are fairly the same thing. DUI stands for driving under the influence, obviously, and DWI stands for driving while intoxicated. So according to a news website called Press Enterprise, a wrong-way crash on the 210 freeway in Rancho Cucamonga left 3 people dead and 2 injured Sunday morning, authorities said. This was reported on July 20th, 2014. About 2:22 a.m., a vehicle was going westbound on the eastbound 210 west of Day Creek Boulevard when it collided head-on with a vehicle in the carpool lane, according to the California Highway Patrol. Think about the sentence that I just said. A vehicle is going westbound on the eastbound 210 when it collided head-on with a vehicle in the carpool lane. 2 weeks prior to this incident, I had spent all day with one of these victims. She was murdered in this accident, and she left behind her 2 brilliant children and her loving husband. So here's my first point. DUI accidents are the most deadly accidents amongst vehicles. A statistic discovered off a publicized article from University of New South Wales was that drunk drivers are involved in approximately 1/3 of motor vehicle related deaths in the USA as well as other countries. So it's not just a USA problem, it's all around the world. My second point is the trial. The trial is an extremely lengthy process. And the trial is a way to buy time, and the Drunk Driving Statistics website similarly states that the time period from actually arresting the offender to the time when they actually get convicted and sentenced can last up to years. They can, if you have a limited or minimal crime, then you're gonna have a longer trial period. And then my third point is that there could be stricter punishments. So the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, also known as the NHTSA, they did a study that was done to determine the likelihood of arrest for DWI offenders and determined that it varies from 1 in 200 instances in some communities to 1 in 2,000 in others. So explaining that quote is that in every 200 people that drive while under the influence, 1 of them gets arrested and 199 of them get away with it. And then in other communities, 1 of them gets arrested and 1,999 of them get away with it. That's a very, very large number that get away with it. My fourth point is about alcoholism. I'm sure we could all agree that forcing DUI offenders to realize their mistakes by revoking them of their licenses immediately can at least help to prevent the alcoholism issue and therefore save even more lives. Current laws do not actually do that. They don't provide a solution to the problem drinking. So, for example, right now, my brother just got a DUI. All he had to do was pay attorney fees and court fees, whatever. He got this little device put into his car that he gets to blow into when he starts his car, and when he's driving, it'll randomly beep and he has to blow into it again. So you get 3 minutes to blow into that device, and if you don't blow into that device, all it does is charge you $40. So if you have a lot of money, you can totally get away with this, and I don't really understand what that's supposed to solve. So lastly, NHTSA also assisted me to discover that states must show drivers that DWI is a serious offense with correspondingly serious consequences in terms of sanctions and treatment. This basically states that if the state is incapable of providing certain aspects of the case to be true, the offender gets away with minimal punishments. And if that doesn't really frustrate you, I don't really know what will. So I hope you guys agree with me that revoking licenses will help to prevent deaths amongst many individuals. Thank you.
Right at the beginning of the speech, the proposition's identified, but it's identified as a policy claim, which is problematic. At the end of the speech, though, you do have a claim of fact, which suggests that revoking the license would produce a particular outcome or a beneficial effect. So I don't understand why that wouldn't be the main proposition at the beginning of the speech, because that's clearly a claim of fact. Your argument at the beginning, though, makes it sound like you are advocating a policy change. There's a preview, but it's a preview only in the sense that there are a list of terms presented. You generally don't make claims with any of those terms, and that is the case in the body of the speech as well. You simply present a series of terms or steps in the process without necessarily making an inference on those particular points. We need some declarative statements on those points so that they build together. There's also an awful lot of them, and I think that there's probably a way to condense them so that they build a more effective argument. I think that it's pretty clear. There's not much dispute that DUI is dangerous, it's harmful, it's inappropriate. People recognize that it's a bad thing. Your argument needs to be that the current laws are inadequate to reduce it, and that some other law would have a more effective impact on DUI. So because that's the inference that I see you making at the end of the speech. Now, like I said, I don't think there's a lot of dispute that DUI is a bad thing. You've got a good personal example that you use. It gets some emotional involvement in there. If this was a persuasive speech, that would get you some extra credit. As it is here, it builds a little bit of personal credibility, but it's not, like I said, I thought you were better off with some of the statistical information about how likely it is that people are going to get away with this. What I don't have any information on is those people who do get convicted, how often they reoffend, how often they don't get convicted, whether or not the punishments are effective at preventing them from doing these sorts of things again. The only example that I have that illustrates those points is your brother, who apparently gets to blow into the breathalyzer and gets charged for it. Your assumption is that doesn't have any effect. I don't know if it has any effect. Your argument seems to be that with wealthy people can get away with it. So is that what's happening? We've got a bunch of wealthy people out there who are committing DUIs and killing people, and it's everybody else who's the laws are effective on. I think you get sidetracked on that issue. That's not really the point that you're making. I think you need to say that these breathalyzer regulations, for instance, fail to stop people from driving when they're intoxicated, that the only punishment that they have is a fine, which is not sufficient in order to discourage them from doing this, that the only way to prevent them from doing this is to revoke their licenses, and that revoking their licenses would have a direct effect on their behavior. Those are the arguments that would build your claim, and I think that you're missing those parts of the argument. Like I said, at the end, I thought that you did a nice job telling us what the point really was in the argument, but it seems like it's a little bit late. Do you have an outline for me?
Oh, I'm going to print it for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.